The grain scoop stood in the corner of the silo like a monument. Raymond had left it there on purpose, handle down, the blade resting against the concrete wall. 50 years of wheat dust had polished the steel to a dull silver glow. The wooden handle was worn smooth in the exact shape of his palm, an inverse mold of calluses and grip, carved by 10,000 scoops across 5 decades. He never thought he'd see it again. But there it was. Still standing, still waiting. The problem was everything else. The farmhouse door hung open. Not broken, just open, like someone had walked through and forgotten to close it behind them. The screen door, the one Clara had asked him to fix for 3 summers, now dangled from a single hinge, twisting in the October wind. Raymond's boots stopped on the porch step. He was 76 years old, and his body told him so in every joint. The hospital had been 3 days. 3 days of fluorescent lights and food that tasted like paper. 3 days of Clara in the bed beside him, her hand reaching across the gap between their mattresses at night. The doctors said it was a minor accident. A minor accident on a Tuesday in October. That Tuesday, Raymond had been in the barn, checking the moisture content of the last harvest. The heirloom wheat red fife, the variety his grandfather had brought from Ontario in 1923, needed exactly 13.5% moisture for optimal storage. He had been running the tester when the ladder slipped. The ladder slipped, and Raymond fell 12 feet onto the concrete floor. He remembered the sound his hip made, a sound like a green branch snapping. He remembered lying on the cold concrete, staring up at the barn beams, thinking about the wheat. The wheat needed to be turned. The wheat needed airflow. The wheat was everything. Clara found him. Clara, who was 73 and still strong enough to drag a man his size across the floor with a rope around his chest. Clara, who called the ambulance with one hand and held his head with the other. The hospital admitted them both. Clara's heart had been acting up again, the palpitations she'd been hiding from him for 6 months. The doctors said she needed observation. She said she needed to be with Raymond. So they stayed. 3 days. 3 days was all it took. Now Raymond stood on the porch of the house he had built with his own hands in 1972, and he stared at the sign. The sign was white, 2 feet by 3 feet, red lettering. A real estate company name he didn't recognize, SOLD. The word was capital letters, bold, undeniable. Clara came up behind him. He heard her footsteps on the gravel, the slight drag of her left foot where the arthritis had settled in her ankle. She stopped when she saw the sign. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Raymond, Clara said. Her voice was quiet, not angry. Just tired. He didn't answer. He walked into the house. The living room was hollow. The couch was gone, the brown plaid couch they had bought in 1985, the one with the cigarette burn on the armrest from Raymond's brother's visit in '87. The television was gone. The rocking chair was gone. Clara's sewing table was gone. The kitchen was worse. The table was gone. The chairs were gone. The china cabinet with Clara's mother's dishes was gone. But the stove was still there, the old gas stove from 1964. It sat against the wall like an abandoned animal, its burners cold, its oven door hanging open. Clara walked past him to the kitchen window. She looked out at the field. The field was bare now. They had harvested in September, just before the accident. 200 acres of red fife wheat, cut and threshed and stored. Raymond, Clara said again. He knew what she was asking. He walked to the back door and looked out at the grain silos. There were 3 of them. 2 large concrete towers and 1 smaller steel silo that his father had built in 1958. The steel one was rusted at the base. It had been listed as empty and derelict in the property assessment. Raymond remembered filling out that assessment form. The real estate agent had come by in August, before the harvest, and asked for an inventory. Raymond had listed the steel silo as empty. It was the only lie he had ever told on an official document, because the steel silo was not empty. It held 200 bushels of red fife wheat, specialty heirloom wheat, the kind that artisan bakeries paid $18 per pound for, the kind that could not be found anywhere else in the state, the kind that Raymond had hidden. He had hidden it because he knew. He had known for years that the children wanted to sell. He had heard them talking at Thanksgiving, at Christmas, at the 4th of July picnic. They spoke in code, "Dad's getting older, the farm is too much, we could sell and split the money." They said these things while eating food grown on that farm, while sitting at the table Raymond had built, while drinking water from the well his father had dug. Raymond had hidden the wheat in the one silo the children had dismissed, the one silo they had laughed at. That old thing, they said, it's probably rusted through, probably full of rats. It was not full of rats, it was full of hope. Now Raymond stood at the back door looking at the silo, and he felt something crack inside him, not his hip this time, something deeper. "Who sold it?" he asked. Clara didn't answer. He turned around. She was holding a piece of paper. It was a letter handwritten in their daughter's handwriting. The loops and curls of Sarah's penmanship, the same handwriting that had written "I love you, Daddy" on every birthday card for 40 years. Raymond took the letter. "Dear Mom and Dad, we didn't want to worry you while you were in the hospital. The doctors said you needed rest. So we handled everything. The sale went through on Tuesday. The closing is November 15th. We've put your things in storage. You can stay with us until you figure out where you want to go. We love you." Sarah, below her signature, there were 2 more lines. "P.S. We emptied the grain silos." The agent said the wheat was included in the sale. "We got $3,000 for the lot. It's in your account." Raymond read the letter 3 times. Then he read it a 4th time. The number $3,000 stayed in his vision like a burn mark. $3,000 for 200 bushels of red fife. $3,000 for wheat that was worth $18 per pound. He did the math in his head. 200 bushels, 60 pounds per bushel, 12,000 pounds, at $18 per pound. $216,000. The children had sold it for $3,000. "Clara," he said. His voice was hoarse. "The silo. Which one?" she asked. "The steel one." She looked at him. She knew. She had always known. She was the one who had helped him plant the red fife in the first place back in 2019. She was the one who had annotated the seed catalog, marking which varieties thrived and which failed year after year, decade after decade. "The children don't know about the steel silo," she said. It wasn't a question. They listed it as empty. But the buyer's inspector will see an empty silo listed on the assessment and won't bother to check. Clara was silent. Raymond walked past her, through the empty living room, out the front door, past the SOL'd sign, across the yard to the steel silo. The door was padlocked. He had the key. He had always had the key. It was on his keychain, right next to the key to the old pump house, right next to the key to the barn. He unlocked the padlock. The door swung open. The smell hit him first. That warm, dusty, sweet smell of wheat. The smell of his entire life. The smell of mornings before dawn and evenings after sunset. The smell of survival. He stepped inside. The silo was dark. He pulled out his phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness and landed on the wheat. It was still there. 200 bushels. Piled in the center of the silo, covered with tarps, the tarps held down with concrete blocks. The wheat was untouched, undisturbed. Perfect. Raymond leaned against the wall of the silo and closed his eyes. He thought about Sarah, his daughter. The girl who had learned to walk in this farmhouse, who had learned to drive on these dirt roads, who had learned to bake bread with this very wheat. The girl who had stood beside him at the county fair and accepted the blue ribbon for best in show. He thought about Michael, his son. The boy who had hated farming, who had moved to the city at 18, who had become a lawyer. Michael had always said the farm was a money pit. Michael had always said they should sell, but Michael had never been here for the spring planting. Michael had never seen the wheat emerge from the soil, green and fragile, reaching toward the sun. Michael had never felt the satisfaction of a full harvest, of grain pouring into the bin, of another year survived. Raymond opened his eyes. He looked at the wheat. Then he looked at the grain scoop. It was standing in the corner, exactly where he had left it. The handle was smooth from decades of use. The blade was worn thin at the edge, sharpened so many times that it had lost its original shape. His father had used that scoop. His grandfather had used it before that. Raymond had used it since he was 12 years old, since the summer his father handed it to him and said, "This is how we eat." Now the scoop was all he had left. He picked it up. The weight was familiar, comfortable, like shaking hands with an old friend. "Raymond," Clara's voice came from the doorway. He turned. She was standing in the light, her silhouette framed by the October sun. She was holding the seed catalog, the one she had annotated since 1968. The one with her handwriting in the margins, notes about soil conditions and rainfall and pest control observations that spanned 55 years. "This is what they don't understand," she said. "They think farming is just work, just physical labor. They don't understand what it means." Raymond set the scoop down. He walked to her. "I'm going to call the buyer," he said. "I'm going to tell them about the wheat. They bought the farm, Raymond. The wheat is theirs. Not if the inspector didn't find it. Not if the assessment listed it as empty." Clara looked at him. Her eyes were gray, the same gray as the winter sky, the same gray he had looked into for 52 years of marriage. "What are you going to do?" she asked. He didn't have an answer. 3 weeks earlier, a Tuesday in October, the day the farm was sold, Raymond and Clara were in room 214 of the county hospital. Raymond's hip had been replaced. The surgery had gone well, the doctors said. He would need physical therapy, but he would walk again. He would be fine. Clara's heart had stabilized. The palpitations were stress-related, the doctors said. She needed rest. She needed to avoid stress. They were both sedated when the papers were signed. Sarah had come to the hospital that morning. She had stood at the foot of Raymond's bed and watched him sleep. She had held Clara's hand and told her that everything was going to be okay. "We've got everything under control, Mom," Sarah had said. "You just focus on getting better." Clara had asked about the farm. "Don't worry about the farm," Sarah had said. "Michael and I are handling everything." Clara had wanted to say more. She had wanted to say that the farm was not something to be handled. The farm was alive. The farm breathed and bled and needed attention like a child. But the morphine was pulling her down, and her eyes were heavy, and she let herself drift. She dreamed of the wheat. She dreamed of walking through the fields in July, the stalks brushing against her waist, the heads heavy with grain. She dreamed of the sound the wind made when it passed through the wheat, a sound like whispering, like secrets being shared. When she woke up, the farm was gone. The real estate agent's name was Derek. He was 34 years old. He drove a black SUV with leather seats. He wore Patagonia vests even in summer. He had never farmed a day in his life. Derek had listed the property at $1.2 million. It had sold for $950,000. He made a commission of $57,000, which was more than Raymond and Clara had made in the last 5 years combined. Derek had never met Raymond. He had dealt exclusively with Michael and Sarah. He had sent them emails with spreadsheets attached. He had used words like liquidity and asset allocation and retirement planning. He did not know that Raymond had hidden 200 bushels of heirloom wheat in a derelict silo. He did not know about the grain scoop. He did not know about the seed catalog. He did not know anything. The buyer was a corporation, a holding company. They had a name that sounded friendly, Green Valley Agricultural Partners, but they were owned by a larger corporation, which was owned by an even larger corporation, and at the top was a man who had never set foot on a farm in his life. The buyer's agricultural inspector was named James. James was 58 years old. He had grown up on a farm in Nebraska. He had watched his father lose the farm in the 1980s, watched the bank take everything, watched his father sit on the front porch and stare at the empty fields for a year before he died. James had become an agricultural inspector because he wanted to help farmers. He wanted to make sure that when farms changed hands, the farmers got a fair price. He wanted to make sure that nothing was overlooked. But James worked for the corporation now, and the corporation did not want him to help farmers. The corporation wanted him to assess properties quickly, to sign off on sales, to move on to the next one. James had inspected the Crenshaw farm on a Friday afternoon in October. He had walked the property. He had seen the 3 grain silos, 2 concrete, 1 steel. He had pulled out his clipboard and checked the boxes. The 2 concrete silos had been empty, clean, recently emptied. The steel silo had been listed as empty and derelict on the assessment form. James had walked past the steel silo. He had seen the rust at the base. He had noted the padlock on the door. He had assumed it was locked because it was empty, because nobody locks a full silo. He had written MPTY in the box and moved on. He did not know that the padlock was there because Raymond Crenshaw had a reason to keep that silo closed. He did not know about the wheat. Raymond sat on the front porch of the empty farmhouse. It was late afternoon now. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the fields. The SO-old sign was still there, planted in the ground like a tombstone. He had the grain scoop in his hands. He was turning it over, feeling the smooth wood, the worn steel, the weight of 50 years. Clara was inside, going through the rooms one by one. She was looking for anything the children had missed. A photograph, a book, a spoon. They had found some things. A box of Christmas ornaments in the attic. A set of dishes in the basement. A quilt that Clara's mother had made, folded in the back of a closet. But most of it was gone. The children had been thorough. They had cleared out the house in 2 days, filling a moving truck with 52 years of marriage, 52 years of memories, 52 years of a life built together. Raymond thought about the day he had brought Clara to this farm. It was 1971. He was 24 years old. She was 21. They had been married 3 months. He had saved enough money to buy the farm from his father, who was retiring to Florida. Clara had stood on this porch and looked out at the fields. The wheat was green then, young, just starting to grow. "This is ours," she had said. "Yes," he had said. "All of it? Every inch." She had turned to him and smiled. That smile, the one that had made him fall in love with her in the first place, the one that still made his heart skip after all these years. "Then we'd better take care of it," she had said, and they had. For 52 years, they had taken care of it. They had risen before dawn and worked until after dark. They had planted and harvested and planted again. They had fought the weather and the market and the bank. They had survived droughts and floods and a plague of grasshoppers that had stripped the fields bare in 1988. They had raised 2 children on this farm. They had taught Sarah to milk a cow and Michael to drive a tractor. They had sent them to school and college and watched them leave. They had grown old here, and now it was gone. The phone rang. It was Clara's phone. She had found it in the kitchen, plugged into the wall, forgotten. She answered. "Hello? Mrs. Crenshaw, this is James Whitaker. I'm the agricultural inspector for Green Valley Agricultural Partners." Clara's hand tightened on the phone. "Yes? I'm calling because I have some concerns about the property assessment, specifically about the steel grain silo." Clara's heart began to pound. "What about it?" "There's a discrepancy in the records. The silo was listed as empty, but I noticed something when I reviewed the photos. There's a padlock on the door, and the ground around the base shows signs of recent activity, tire tracks, footprints." Clara was silent. "Mrs. Crenshaw, I need to ask you a question." "Yes? Is there something in that silo?" Clara looked out the kitchen window. She could see Raymond sitting on the porch, the grain scoop in his hands. "I don't know," she said. "You'd have to ask my husband." "I'd like to come by tomorrow morning," James said. "I'd like to open that silo." "That's fine," Clara said. "We'll be here." She hung up. She walked to the front door. "Raymond," she said. He looked up. "The inspector wants to open the silo tomorrow morning." Raymond's face didn't change. He just nodded slowly, the way he did when he was thinking, when he was processing something that mattered. "Did you tell him about the wheat?" he asked. "No'd." He stood up. He walked past her into the house. "Where are you going?" she asked. "To get the truck." "Why?" "Because I'm not going to let them take it without a fight." Raymond drove the truck to the steel silo. It was dark now. The headlights cut through the night, illuminating the rusted metal, the padlock door, the wheat that had been hiding there for weeks. He parked and got out. He opened the padlock. He swung the door open. The smell hit him again. Warm. Sweet. Alive, he climbed into the silo. He turned on his phone's flashlight. He looked at the wheat. 200 bushels, 12,000 pounds, $216,000, enough to buy a small house, enough to live on for several years, enough to start over. He thought about what he would do with the money if he could get it. He thought about buying a small piece of land, maybe an acre or 2, just enough to grow some wheat, just enough to keep his hands in the soil. He thought about what Clara would say. She would say it was a good idea. She would say they were too old to start over, but she would help him anyway. He thought about the grain scoop. He picked it up. He held it in his hands. The wood was warm against his palms. The steel was cool. This scoop had fed them for 50 years. It had fed their children. It had fed the community. It had fed the country. This scoop was worth more than any sign. He climbed out of the silo. He locked the padlock. He drove back to the house. Clara was waiting for him. "Raymond," she said. "What are you going to tell him?" "The truth," Raymond said. "I'm going to tell him the truth, and if he takes it, he can't take what he doesn't find." Clara looked at him. "Raymond, the silo is locked. He has a key now. He's going to open it. He's going to open it and find an empty silo." Clara stared at him. "Raymond." "What did you do?" He didn't answer. He just walked past her into the empty house, into the kitchen, where he sat down at the counter where the table used to be. "I moved the wheat," he said. "Where?" "To the barn, under the floorboards, where my father hid the whiskey during Prohibition." Clara closed her eyes. "Raymond, the silo will be empty. He'll check it and find nothing." "That's right." "And then what?" "Then we have time. Time to figure out what to do. Time to get the wheat to the mill. Time to get the money before the sale closes." Clara opened her eyes. "You're going to sell the wheat?" "Yes." "To the specialty mill, $18 a pound. That's $216,000. "I know." "Raymond, that's enough to—" "I know." She walked to him. She put her hand on his shoulder, his old shoulder, the one that had carried so much weight. "I'm with you," she said. "Whatever you do, I'm with you." The next morning, James arrived at 7 o'clock. He drove a white pickup truck, not a corporate vehicle. He was wearing jeans and a flannel shirt, not a suit. He looked like a farmer. Raymond met him at the gate. "Mr. Crenshaw," James said. "Mr. Whitaker, I appreciate you letting me come by. I didn't have much choice." "No, I suppose you didn't." They walked to the steel silo. James had the key. He unlocked the padlock. He swung the door open. The silo was empty. James looked inside. He saw the concrete floor. He saw the dust. He saw the cobwebs in the corners, but he did not see any wheat. "There's nothing here," he said. "No," Raymond said. "There isn't." James turned to him. "Mr. Crenshaw, the assessment said this silo was empty, but the ground showed signs of activity. The padlock was new." "Someone has been here." Raymond said nothing. Mr. Crenshaw, I need to know if there was wheat here. If there was, it belongs to the buyer. The sale includes all assets on the property. I understand. So was there wheat here? Raymond looked at James. He looked at the empty silo. He thought about the wheat in the barn under the floorboards waiting. No, Raymond said. There was no wheat. James studied him. Mr. Crenshaw, I've been doing this job for 30 years. I can tell when someone is lying. Then you know I'm telling the truth. James was silent. He walked into the silo. He examined the floor. He looked at the walls. He ran his hand along the concrete. There's a smell, he said. Wheat, old wheat. This silo held wheat recently. It held wheat last season. We emptied it in September. And you stored the wheat where? In the concrete silos, which you already checked. James nodded slowly. The concrete silos were empty when I checked them. We sold the wheat to a local mill. Right before the accident. And you have records of that sale? Raymond's heart was pounding. He could feel it in his chest, in his throat, in his ears. I said, in the house. If you'd like to see them. James looked at him. Mr. Crenshaw. I'm going to be honest with you. Okay, I grew up on a farm. I know what it's like. I know what it means. I know that corporations like the one I work for don't care about farmers. They care about profits. Raymond said nothing. I've been doing this job for 30 years. I've seen a lot of farmers lose everything. I've seen families destroyed. I've seen people give up. James paused. But I've also seen farmers fight. I've seen them find ways to survive. I've seen them hide things, protect things, keep things that matter. He looked at Raymond. I'm not going to look any further, James said. I'm going to write my report. I'm going to say that the steel silo was empty. I'm going to move on. Raymond stared at him. Why? Because I believe in farmers. I believe in people like you. And I believe that whatever you're hiding, you have a good reason. James walked past Raymond. Good luck, Mr. Crenshaw. He got in his truck and drove away. Raymond stood in front of the empty silo for a long time. The wind was blowing. The October leaves were falling. The sun was rising over the fields. He thought about what James had said. He thought about the unexpected ally. He thought about the wheat. He walked to the barn. The barn was old, built in 1947 by Raymond's father. The wood was weathered gray. The roof was patched in 3 places. The floorboards creaked when you walked on them. Raymond walked to the back corner where the floorboards were loose. He pulled them up. Underneath, there was a space. A hidden space. A space where his father had hidden whiskey during Prohibition, where his grandfather had hidden money during the Depression, where Raymond now hid wheat. The wheat was there, 200 bushels, 12,000 pounds, covered in tarps, perfect. Raymond climbed down into the space. He lifted the tarp. He ran his hands through the wheat. The kernels were hard and dry and perfect. He thought about the specialty flour mill. He thought about the $18 per pound. He thought about the money. He thought about Clara. She was in the house now, packing the few things they had left. She was moving slowly, carefully, the way she did when she was thinking. She was probably making a list in her head, planning their next move. He climbed out of the space. He replaced the floorboards. He walked to the house. Clara, he said. She looked up. The inspector is gone. He's not coming back. Did he find anything? No. He just left. He said he believes in farmers. Clara set down the box she was holding. Raymond, what are we going to do? We're going to sell the wheat. How? The farm is sold. The buyer owns everything. If we try to take the wheat off the property, it's theft. I know. So how do we do it? Raymond sat down at the counter. I need to call the mill. I need to ask them if they'll come here and buy the wheat directly. I need to ask them if they'll do it quietly. And if they say no, then I find another way. The call was made. The mill owner's name was Maria. She was 62 years old. She had inherited the mill from her father, who had inherited it from his father, who had built it in 1922. She knew Raymond. She knew his wheat. She had been buying from him for 15 years. Raymond, she said. I heard about the farm. I'm sorry. Thank you, Maria. Are you okay? I'm fine. Clara is fine. We're fine. What can I do for you? I have wheat. 200 bushels of red fife. I need to sell it. I'll buy it. You know I'll buy it. There's a problem. What kind of problem? The farm is sold. The wheat is technically part of the sale. If I try to move it off the property, it's theft. Maria was silent. Raymond, where is the wheat? It's hidden. Where? In the barn. Under the floorboards. How did you get it there? I moved it last night. And the buyer's inspector didn't find it. Another silence. Raymond, I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Okay. Is the wheat legally yours? Raymond thought about it. The wheat was harvested before the sale. The sale hasn't closed yet. The wheat is in a silo that was listed as empty. The buyer's inspector signed off on the empty silo. That's not a yes. It's the best I can do. Maria sighed. Raymond, I want to help you. But I can't buy stolen wheat. It's not stolen. It's contested, and I can't afford a legal battle. Maria. I'm sorry, Raymond, I can't. She hung up. Raymond sat in the empty kitchen. The phone was in his hand. The dial tone was buzzing. He didn't hang up. He thought about the wheat. He thought about the money. He thought about the $216,000 that was sitting under the barn floorboards, waiting to be turned into something real. He thought about Clara. He thought about her heart. He thought about the stress she was under. He thought about the children. He thought about Sarah and Michael. He thought about what they had done. He thought about forgiveness. He thought about anger. He thought about the line between the two. He hung up the phone. Clara, he said. She came into the kitchen. The mill won't buy it. Why not? 'Cause it's contested. Because they're afraid of legal trouble. What are we going to do? Raymond looked out the window. The fields were empty. The silos were empty. The house was empty. Find another buyer, he said. Who? I don't know. But someone will buy it. Someone who doesn't ask questions. Raymond. That's illegal. I know. Raymond. We're not criminals. We're not. But we're also not going to let them take everything. Clara looked at him. I'm scared, she said. I know. What if we get caught? Then we get caught. But at least we tried. They found a buyer. His name was Frank. He was a grain dealer from 3 counties over. He had a reputation for buying wheat without asking too many questions. Raymond called him. Frank. It's Raymond Crenshaw. Raymond. I heard about the farm. Yeah. Sorry to hear it. Thanks. What can I do for you? I have wheat. 200 bushels of red fife. I need to sell it. Red fife? That's specialty. That's worth good money. $18 a pound. That's a lot of money, Raymond. I know. Is the wheat clean? Clean as a whistle? And you have the paperwork? Not exactly. Frank was silent. Raymond, is this wheat on the up and up? It's my wheat. I grew it. I harvested it. It's mine. But the paperwork? There's some complications. I can't buy contested wheat, Raymond. I know. But I can buy wheat that's already been moved off the property. Raymond understood. Where would I move it? There's an old grain elevator in Millbrook. It's been closed for years. But I have the key. If you can get the wheat there, I'll buy it. Cash? Cash. Deal. They moved the wheat that night. Raymond drove the truck. Clara sat beside him. The wheat was in the bed, covered with tarps, tied down with ropes. They drove down dirt roads, avoiding the highway. The moon was full, casting silver light across the fields. Clara was quiet. Are you okay? Raymond asked. I'm thinking. About what? About the children. What about them? Do you think they knew about the wheat? Raymond thought about it. No. They didn't know. They never cared enough to know. That's not fair. Maybe not. But it's true. Clara looked out the window. Sarah called me this morning. What did she say? She said she's sorry. She said she thought she was helping. What did you tell her? I told her that we're fine. That we don't need her help. That must have been hard. It was. They drove in silence for a while. Clara, Raymond said, yes, I'm sorry. For what? For not being able to give you a better life. Clara turned to him. Raymond Crenshaw, you gave me a wonderful life. You gave me a farm. You gave me children. You gave me 52 years of love. But now we have each other. And we have wheat. And we have a plan. She reached over and took his hand. That's enough, she said. They reached the grain elevator at midnight. It was an old building, 3 stories tall, made of concrete and rusting metal. The door was padlocked. Frank had given Raymond the key. They unlocked the door. They drove the truck inside. They unloaded the wheat. It took 3 trips. By the time they finished, it was 2:14 a.m. The dashboard clock read the time in green numbers. Raymond's back was aching. His hands were shaking. But the wheat was safe. He locked the grain elevator. He drove back to the farm. Clara was asleep in the passenger seat. Her head was against the window. Her breathing was slow and steady. Raymond looked at her. She was 73 years old. Her hair was gray. Her hands were gnarled with arthritis. Her heart was weak. But she was still beautiful. He drove home. The next morning, Raymond woke up early. He made coffee. There was no table to put it on, so he drank it standing at the counter. Clara came downstairs. She was holding the seed catalog, the one from 1968, the one with all her notes. What are you going to do with that? Raymond asked. I'm going to keep it, she said. It's all I have left. They sat in the empty living room. The sun came through the windows. The dust motes danced in the light. Raymond, Clara said, yes? What are we going to do after this? After what? After we sell the wheat. After we get the money. What are we going to do? Raymond thought about it. We could buy a small house. Somewhere warm. Somewhere with a garden. A garden? Just a small one? Big enough for some tomatoes, some peppers, maybe some wheat. Raymond. You're 76 years old. I know. You can't start over. I know. But you want to. Yes. Clara smiled. Then we'll do it. Frank came to the grain elevator at noon. He inspected the wheat. He ran his hands through it. He smelled it. He tasted it. Good wheat, he said. I know. $18 a pound. That's the price. That's a lot of money, Raymond. I know. Frank pulled out a stack of cash. 12,000 pounds. $18 a pound. That's $216,000. He counted the money. Raymond watched. Here, Frank said, handing him the stack. Raymond took it. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Raymond. This wheat is going to make some very good bread. Raymond smiled. That's the idea. Raymond drove home with the money in the glove compartment. He felt lighter. He felt heavier. He felt like a weight had been lifted but replaced with something else. He thought about what he would tell Clara. He thought about what they would do next. He pulled into the driveway. The SOLD sign was still there. He parked the truck. He got out. He walked to the house. Clara was sitting on the front porch. She was holding the seed catalog. She was looking at the fields. Clara, he said. She looked up. It's done, he said. You see, yes? The money? She looked at him. Raymond, we did it. We did. She stood up. She walked to him. She hugged him. He held her. I love you, she said. I love you too. Now what? Now we figure out what's next. They stayed in the farmhouse for 3 more days. The house was empty. The walls were bare. The floors were cold. But they had each other. On the 3rd day, Sarah came to visit. She drove up in her minivan. She parked next to the SOLD sign. She walked to the front door. Raymond opened it. Dad, she said. Sarah, can I come in? He stepped aside. She walked into the empty living room. She looked around. She saw the bare walls, the dust motes still dancing in the afternoon light. It's really empty, she said. We sold everything. Furniture, tools, even the tractor. Just the house left, and that's sold too, she nodded. She sat down on the floor, cross-legged, like she used to do when she was a child. I talked to Mom, she said. I know. She told me about the wheat, about Frank, about everything. Raymond sat down across from her. I wanted to tell you, he said, but I didn't know how. Why didn't you just give me the money? Why didn't you just help me? Because it wouldn't have helped. You needed to figure it out yourself. She looked at him. Her eyes were red. I lost everything, she said. The house, the car, the kids' college fund, everything. I know. Nathan left me. He said I was a failure. He said he couldn't be with someone who couldn't keep their promises. Raymond said nothing. I'm sorry, she said, for what I said about the wheat, for what I said about you and Mom. For all of it. I know you are. She started to cry. I don't know what to do, Dad. I don't know how to fix this. Raymond stood up. He walked to the kitchen. He came back with the seed catalog, the one from 1968. Here, he said, handing it to her. She looked at it. What is this? This is what your mother and I built. This is the catalog we used to buy our first seeds. This is where it all started. She opened it. She saw the notes, the handwriting, the yellowed pages. I don't understand, she said. You don't have to understand, he said. You just have to keep going. 6 months later, Raymond and Clara were living in a small house in Arizona. It was warm. There was a garden. Not a big one, just enough for tomatoes, peppers, and a small patch of wheat. Clara was happy. Raymond was content. They didn't have much. A couch, a bed, a table, a few pots and pans. But they had each other. And then the phone rang. It was Frank. Raymond, I need to talk to you. What about? It's about the wheat. Raymond's stomach tightened. What about the wheat? It's contaminated. What? The batch you sold me. It's contaminated. There's a fungus. A kind of rust. It's spreading to other batches. I'm losing everything. Raymond sat down. That's impossible, he said. I checked every grain. Every single one. I know you did, but it's there. And it's destroying my business. Frank's voice was shaky. He sounded old, tired. Raymond, I need your help. I need you to come back. I need you to tell me what to do. Raymond closed his eyes. I can't help you, Frank. Why not? Because you knew. You knew about the patent. You knew about the law. You knew what would happen to us if we sold it. And you bought it anyway. I didn't know it would be contaminated. You didn't care if it was. You just wanted the money. There was a long silence. You're right, Frank said. I did want the money. I was greedy. I was stupid. Yes, you were. But I'm losing everything. My wife left me. My sons won't talk to me. The bank is taking the grain elevator. I don't have anything left. Raymond looked at Clara. She was sitting in the garden watering the tomatoes. I'm sorry, Frank, he said, but I can't help you. He hung up. 3 days later, Raymond got a letter. It was from Frank, handwritten. The paper was crumpled, the ink was smudged. Raymond, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to help me. But I want you to know the truth. I didn't know about the patent when I bought the wheat. I found out later. But by then, I had already sold it. I had already made the money. And I was too ashamed to tell you I'm sorry. For everything, I sold the grain elevator. I'm moving to Florida. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I wanted you to know the truth. Frank Raymond folded the letter. He put it in his pocket. He walked to the garden. Clara was picking tomatoes. What did Frank say? She asked. He apologized. He said he didn't know about the patent. Do you believe him? I don't know. Maybe. It doesn't matter now. No, she said. It doesn't. She handed him a tomato. It was warm from the sun. Here, she said. Eat this. He bit into it. It was sweet. Perfect. Good tomato, he said. I know. But Frank was not done. 2 weeks later, Raymond got a call from a lawyer. Mr. Hartley, the lawyer, said, I'm representing Frank Morrison. What does he want? He wants to sue you. For what? For damages. He claims the wheat you sold him was contaminated and that you knew about it. Raymond laughed. That's ridiculous. I didn't know about any contamination. He has evidence. He says you had a sample tested before you sold it, and the results showed the presence of rust. Raymond stopped laughing. I never had any sample tested. He says you did. He says you paid a lab to test it, and the results were positive. That's a lie. He has the paperwork. He has the lab report. He has your signature. Raymond's hands started to shake. I never signed anything. The signature has been verified by a handwriting expert. That's impossible. It's not impossible, Mr. Hartley. It's happening. And if you don't settle, I'm going to take you to court. Raymond hung up. He sat down. He stared at the wall. Clara came in. What's wrong? Frank is suing me. He says the wheat was contaminated. He says he has proof. That's not possible. I know, but he has a lab report. He has my signature. Your signature? Yes. Clara sat down. She was quiet for a long time. Raymond, she said. Do you remember that man who came to the farm? The one who wanted to buy the wheat? The one with the briefcase? Yes. What was his name? I don't remember. He said he was a buyer. He said he worked for Frank. Did you sign anything for him? Raymond thought. I signed a receipt for the payment. He said it was just a formality. Clara closed her eyes. That's how he did it. He had someone else sign your name. He forged it. Raymond felt sick. What do I do? We fight, Clara said. We fight back. They hired a lawyer, a young woman named Maria. She was sharp. She was fierce. She had a fire in her eyes that reminded Raymond of Clara when she was young. This is going to be hard, Maria said. He has a lot of evidence. Even if it's forged, it's going to take time to prove it. How much time? Months? Maybe a year. We'd have a year. You don't have a choice. They went to court. The courtroom was cold. The judge was old. The jury was bored. Frank sat on the other side. He looked smaller than Raymond remembered. His suit was wrinkled. His hair was gray. He had the look of a man who had lost everything and was trying to hold on to the last piece of himself. Mr. Hartley, the judge said, you are accused of selling contaminated wheat. How do you plead? Not guilty, Your Honor. The trial began. Frank's lawyer presented the evidence, the lab report, the signature, the testimony of the handwriting expert. Raymond's lawyer countered. She brought in experts of her own. She showed that the signature was a forgery, that the lab report was fake, that the handwriting expert had been paid by Frank, but the jury was not convinced. The evidence is circumstantial. One juror said, we need more. Maria looked at Raymond. Do you have anything else? She whispered. Raymond thought. I have something, he said. But it's not evidence. What is it? It's a letter from Frank, apologizing for everything. Where is it? At home. We need it. Raymond called Clara. Clara, he said, I need the letter, the one Frank sent. I have it. Can you bring it to the courthouse? I'll be there in an hour. Clara arrived with the letter. Maria presented it to the court. This letter, she said, was written by the plaintiff, Frank Morrison. In it, he admits to knowing about the patent. He admits to being greedy. He admits to being stupid. He does not mention any contamination. He does not mention any lab test. He simply apologizes for buying the wheat without knowing the truth. Frank's lawyer objected. The letter is not admissible, he said. It has not been verified. It has been verified, Maria said. We have a handwriting expert who has confirmed that the letter was written by Mr. Morrison. The judge looked at the letter. This is interesting, he said, but does not prove that the wheat was not contaminated. No, Maria said. But it does prove that Mr. Morrison is willing to lie to get what he wants. The jury whispered. Frank looked pale. Your Honor, Frank's lawyer said, The letter is irrelevant. It's not irrelevant, Maria said. It shows a pattern of dishonesty. The judge nodded. I'll allow it. The trial continued. Maria called Frank to the stand. Mr. Morrison, she said, did you write this letter? Frank looked at the letter. He looked at Raymond. Yes, he said. Did you mean what you wrote? Yes. Then why did you sue Mr. Hartley for damages? Because I lost everything. Because I needed someone to blame. So you blame Mr. Hartley? Yes. Even though you knew the wheat was not contaminated. Frank was silent. Mr. Morrison, the judge said, answer the question. I don't know if it was contaminated, Frank said. I never tested it, but you had a lab report that said it was. I had a lab report that I paid for. I don't know if it was real. So you lied? Frank looked down. Yes, he said. I lied. The jury gasped. The verdict came 2 days later. We find the defendant Raymond Hott guilty. Frank stood up. This is a travesty, he shouted. This is injustice. The judge banged his gavel. Mr. Morrison, you are in contempt of court. Sit down. Frank sat down. His face was red. His hands were shaking. The judge looked at him. Mr. Morrison, he said, I am referring your case to the district attorney. Perjury. Forgery. You will be hearing from them. Frank looked at Raymond. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. Raymond did not say anything. He walked out of the courtroom. Raymond went home. Clara was waiting for him. It's over, he said. I know. I'm tired. Come sit down. She led him to the couch. He sat down. She sat next to him. What do you want to do now? She asked. I don't know. Sleep. Maybe for a week. That sounds like a good idea. He closed his eyes, but he could not sleep. He kept thinking about Frank, about the trial, about everything. Clara, he said, yes? Do you think we should have helped him? Helped who? Frank, she was quiet. No, she said. I don't think we should have helped him. He made his choices. He has to live with them. But he lost everything. So did we. We lost the farm. We lost the house. We lost everything. But we have each other. Yes, we have each other. And he doesn't have anyone. Raymond looked at her. That's not our problem. I know. But it still makes me sad. I know. They sat in silence. The next day, Raymond found a note on the front porch. It was handwritten. The paper was crumpled. The ink was smudged. Raymond, I'm sorry. I know that's not enough. I know it doesn't change anything. But I'm sorry. I'm going to prison. I don't know for how long. But I wanted you to know that I regret everything. I used to think that money was the most important thing. I was wrong. I hope you and Clara find peace. Frank Raymond folded the note. He put it in his pocket. He walked to the garden. Clara was watering the tomatoes. Who was it? She asked. Frank. What did he say? He said he's sorry. He said he's going to prison. Clara stopped watering. Are you going to write back? No. Why not? Because there's nothing to say. She nodded. You're right. They did not write back. They did not go to visit him. They did not think about him. They lived their lives. The garden grew. The tomatoes ripened. The peppers turned red. The wheat swayed in the wind. Raymond and Clara sat on the porch every evening. They watched the sun go down. They listened to the birds. They did not talk about the past. They talked about the future. What do you want to do tomorrow? Clara asked one evening. I don't know, Raymond said. Maybe plant some more tomatoes. We have enough tomatoes. I know. But I like growing them. You like eating them. That too. She laughed. You're a stubborn old man, I know. But I love you. I love you too. One morning, Raymond found a small package on the front porch. It was wrapped in brown paper. There was no return address. He opened it. Inside was a small jar, a jar of wheat kernels, and a note. Raymond, I found this in the bottom of my desk. It's from the first batch you sold me. The good batch. The one that was not contaminated. I wanted you to have it. As a reminder of what was real, I hope you and Clara are well. Frank Raymond held the jar. The wheat kernels were golden. They were perfect. He walked to the garden. Clara was sitting on the ground, pulling weeds. Look what I found, he said. She looked at the jar. Is that from Frank? Yes. What are you going to do with it? I don't know. Plant it, maybe. It might be contaminated. It might not be. She smiled. You're a fool. I know. He opened the jar. He poured the kernels into his hand. They were warm. They were alive. He scattered them across the garden. What are you doing? Clara asked. Planting them. Why? Because they deserve to grow. She stood up. She walked to him. She took his hand. You're right, she said. They do. That evening they sat on the porch. The sun was setting. The sky was orange and pink and gold. Clara leaned against Raymond. Do you think they'll grow? She asked. I don't know, he said. But I hope so. What if they don't? Then we try again. And if they do? Then we have wheat. She laughed. We have wheat. That's all we ever needed. Yes, he said. That's all we ever needed. They sat in silence. The sun went down, the stars came out. And in the garden, buried in the soil, the wheat kernels waited.